Technology without people is just very cool stuff. American Army is all about our soldiers. They're the focal point of who we are. And in fact, they are the institution, the soldier in the Army. Let me tell you about one. Staff Sergeant Salvador Junta just received the Congressional Medal of Honor for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his own life above and beyond the call of duty. How does someone join an organization, find themselves in Afghanistan at night, ambushed by the enemy, close on that enemy, see one of their brothers wounded to their front, throw hand grenades and with rifle fire assault that enemy, bring their brother back into cover, realizing that more soldiers are forward, re-attack into that hail of fire, come over a crest, see the enemy chillingly carrying one of his brothers off the battlefield, and continue the attack, killing one enemy insurgent, wounding the other, and bringing his brother back. How does someone do that? They do that because they have confidence. They do that because they believe in their brothers and sisters. They do that because they're well equipped. The American Army is the best manned, best trained, best equipped, best led force that we've ever had in our history. They do it because they believe in the values that they're taught as soldiers. How do we get that confidence? How do our soldiers become empowered by technology and in turn empower technology? Imagine being a 51-year-old general. I left Iraq and I was sent to Fort Benning, Georgia to command and train and help train our infantry and our airborne forces. Young men and women who volunteer to come in the Army and become paratroopers. It's not the greatest idea in the world to throw a perfectly good body out of an airplane, but we do it because it gives us the capability to do that. So imagine being 51, going down and rigging up, getting into a great Air Force aircraft that's empowered with GPS technology, great avionics, can deliver the paratrooper anywhere on the battlefield they need to go. But we would rig up, and because our leaders jump first, we lead by example in all that we do, we would see young paratroopers, Monday morning, first jump after 2 weeks of airborne school. They're going to exit that aircraft. And as we ingress to the drop zone, and we open that door, about a minute out at 1,200 feet. And those young people would sit there and look out that door and say, "Oh my God." The moment had reached them that they were going to exit that aircraft. And moments later, we'd be on the drop zone, they'd be on the drop zone, euphoric that they had executed that aircraft, accomplished the mission. And one day when I was out there, I saw a young man packing his parachute. And I went over to him and I said, "Well, Airborne, how was your first jump?" He jumped up. "Sir, considering this is the first time I've ever flown on an aircraft, jumped out of an airplane, and landed safely, it was a remarkable day." But you see, he demonstrated the Army value of personal courage. He had a personal accomplishment, and he had confidence. And not only do our soldiers serve as paratroopers, they make us better. They have improved our parachute, as shown behind me, to be a more effective capability that slows the rate of descent, protects them as they descend, delivers them to the battlefield in any situation. It's our soldiers who tested that parachute, improved that parachute, jumped with that parachute, and give us that capability. How do we get these soldiers? We have a rigorous selection process that brings volunteers into our Army, that qualifies them medically so they can serve and not worsen the condition they might have, that they're physically capable of serving by height and weight standards, and that they're also aptitudinally ready to serve because we build on the American education system and we empower these soldiers. We invest in training, invest in technology to help these soldiers work better. A couple of examples. After we come into basic training and we work through those 10 weeks of basic training, we go to advanced individual training. In advanced individual training, if you're a linguist with iPod technology, you are constantly in an environment where you're hearing the language you're going to speak. You're practicing your intonations, you're getting cultural references. If you're a truck driver, you will literally spend hundreds of hours driving in the world's best simulations in every environment. On roads, on gravel, in ice, in an enemy situation, you're in the environment. And our medical personnel work on medical mannequins that breathe, that bleed, that go into shock, hours and hours, so that when they get to the battlefield, they have that confidence. And they have, in turn, told us how to improve that capability as we move forward. Once they finish basic training and advanced individual training, our soldiers go to their first unit of assignment. And we empower them with more technology and make them even more capability. Case in point, the Land Warrior. Land Warrior is a wearable computer system. It is in the tactical internet, and it uses the graphical user interface. We developed this at Fort Benning, was a commanding general in the battle labs. It was our non-commissioned officers working with industry that worked with them on what the soldier needed to be able to do his or her job on the battlefield, empowered by this type of technology. Then it went out from Fort Benning to Fort Lewis, Washington, where soldiers continued to test it. And they had such high confidence in it, those soldiers demanded that it go to combat with them. With this helmet-mounted display, with a mouse that they can carry, lighter weight. For time since we started warfare, soldiers have stood shoulder to shoulder on the battlefield because they don't want to be isolated. What Land Warrior does is it virtually connects them shoulder to shoulder. They don't have to stand side by side. And it gives them unparalleled situational awareness. Imagine, in your eye, you see first the terrain, delivered by map. Then you see where your friendly forces are, including friendly aircraft. You also see the enemy in your display. So you have unparalleled situational awareness of where you are, where your friendly forces are, where the enemy is, and how the map works. Tremendous technology that our soldiers improved. So my Command Sergeant Major tells this story. Command Sergeant Major John Wayne Troxell. Yes, his parents named him very well because he can out-Duke the Duke. But serving in combat with the Land Warrior, Command Sergeant Major Troxell and his commander got indications, intelligence that the most wanted terrorist in northern Iraq had been located. 22 infantry soldiers were on a runway waiting to take off for another mission. Using the graphical user interface, those 22 soldiers planned their mission. They transmitted orders to one another and back to their headquarters. They loaded those assault aircraft. They assaulted in, and that terrorist is no longer a threat to anyone in Iraq or anyone in the world for that matter because of Land Warrior. Soldiers have even taken it beyond that. Colonel Tonnell, my executive officer, was a battalion commander in 2003 with the 173rd Airborne. He jumped with a map like this into combat operations in Iraq. Imagine the hours taken to tape this map together, laminate this map, and place these graphics on this map, which he carried on subsequent missions. The holes in this map are the bullet holes where Colonel Tonnell was wounded by the enemy. Vowing during his recovery never to go back to combat with not better technology, Colonel Tonnell and his brigade used the Land Warrior. But they even improved upon the Land Warrior because you see two young leaders in his brigade, Captain Jared Cox and Sergeant Walker, field artillery soldiers, not technologists, tackled an age-old problem. And that problem was, how do you integrate the air and the land teams together? See, since the First World War, we've had great, brave pilots flying into the objective area trying to deliver munitions in support of soldiers. We've tried a lot of things, smoke grenades, mirrors, signals, even radios, which sometimes takes 30 to 45 minutes. Great pilots trying to find the enemy on the ground, trying to find the friendly forces, tough work. So what Captain Cox and Sergeant Walker did was they cracked through it in a 2-year persistent process to give us a new capability on the ground with air-ground integration. What you see in this picture is the pilot as he begins to move into the objective area using his heads-up or his displays. You'll see in a moment, you see this X that appears, that's our friendly forces. This screen will change in a moment. And look at this terrain. Imagine being an Air Force or Navy pilot trying to support and trying to figure out in that terrain where the enemy is or where our soldiers are. Tough, tough mission. But because of our soldiers' work in empowering technology, you will see that they show up in the pilot's heads-up display. As I showed you on the last graphical user interface, they can see the pilot inbound, and in minutes they can coordinate what they need to do, delivering accurate fires on the enemy, protecting our friendly forces, and protecting the population that we're serving with. Remarkable empowerment by regular soldiers thinking through a tough and age-old problem. And that's the whole aspect of it. You see, our young men and women are so alive today with their innovations and what they do for the Army. They make the technology so much better. When I served in Afghanistan as a Joint Task Force commander, the 26 other nations served there would often ask me, why is your Army so good? Why can you do what you do every day on the battlefield? It's your funding. Well, funding certainly helps. And you've got to have the right kind of resources to have the right kind of Army. They say it's your technology. And we know that America produces great technology, tremendous technology. But you know, it's our soldiers who make it better. and living the Army values and the courage that Sergeant Junta displayed, having the innovations that Captain Cox and Sergeant Walker displayed. That's what makes this Army this great Army. And after all, technology without people is just cool stuff. Thank you.